What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, J Mill. J Mill, if you like. So let's get into it. Today, we're going to go through a little bit of minicamp recap. But before I get to that, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're at 70 subscribers. When we get to 100, we'll give something away. So please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's keep it going. But let's get into the minicamp recap. So Cowboys officially ended their minicamp Thursday of last week. They had some interesting situations as far as players making impacts and players who weren't supposed to practice all of a sudden hopping into practice, having conversations with Jerry Jones, all that good stuff. So, of course, I'm going to start with Micah Parsons because we've been hearing a lot of, feedback on the Micah Parsons contract. And the funny thing is, I feel like the terminology is getting a little bit misconstrued, right? People were calling Micah Parsons' situation during those mini camps that are now done a hold in, right? But during his hold in, he participated in some drills. He participated in meetings. He participated with his teammates. I I don't I don't think that's a hold in. You know, like I I think that's a Cowboys generated storyline. As in, if TJ Watt showed up to Steelers training camp, or I'm sorry, Steelers mini camp, and he participated in some of the drills and he was in the meetings and all that stuff, they wouldn't call that a hold in. They would say TJ Watt showed up to mini camp. Same thing with Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. If he showed up and he participated in things, they wouldn't call that a hold in. They would say, Hendrickson showed up to Bengals camp. So only for Micah Parsons is it all of a sudden termed a hold-in. It's not a hold-in. It's not anything. He was there. He participated. I don't know what else you call it. You call it mandatory minicamp. But because he's a Cowboy, it gets termed a hold-in. And the only reason they term it that is so that now over the next 6 weeks until the Cowboys report to training camp, or actually not even 6 weeks at this point, it's about 4 weeks because today, it's June 17th, and mini camp, the Cowboys fly out there on the 20th, and they start on field stuff the 21st. So, uh, it's really interesting how when it's the Dallas Cowboys, things really get twisted into a certain narrative just to kind of keep, I guess, the streams flowing or to keep ESPN afloat so that they have something to talk about. But it really makes me think that the Cowboys are doing this whole thing on purpose. And by that, I mean when they're not necessarily signing a contract, because like I said before, a couple episodes ago, they know what the number is. Micah knows what the number is. Everybody knows what the number is, right? So there's really no reason for Jerry Jones not to pick up the phone and say, hey, let's get on the phone with David Milligetta and let's get this ironed out so that Micah has his, $40+ million a year deal for 5 years that the Cowboys are X amount guaranteed, and boom, we're off and running. And the Cowboys would actually create extra cap space by doing this. So it's not even like it's a salary cap move. It'll actually help their salary cap this year by doing that. And I know they want to carry it over to next year. So they're going to create, as much as $13 million in cap space by getting Micah Parsons' deal done, which means the Cowboys could carry over upwards of $45 million in cap space heading into next year when they have a $79 million cap hit for Dak Prescott's contract. So it's going to happen, and the Cowboys are going to create that space regardless, and Micah's going to sign it. Micah's going to be a Cowboy. Micah was at minicamp. Micah was actually sort of at OTAs too. Micah's going to be at training camp. So I'm just like, what are we really talking about here? But nevertheless, it's the Dallas Cowboys. That's kind of just the way things go. That's what people do. It's the most popular team in the NFL. So a lot of these guys just want to continue to create headlines, especially over the next 4.5 weeks, while there's really nothing going on in the NFL. So let's shift gears. Another mini camp recap. Kyer Elam, right? So Kyer Elam is one of those people I haven't talked about much this off season. They keep talking about every time there's some sort of media availability that he's always coming up with a pass breakup. Whoop the freaking do. Yep. Yeah. If you get that reference, hit me up. But we're gonna wait till we get to Oxnard. We're gonna wait till we get the pads on. We're gonna wait until we get in these preseason games. And honestly, we're gonna wait till we get into the season because minicamp breakups mean nothing. I mean, to me, they mean nothing, right? When Kyer Elam is going up against CeeDee Lamb in the dog days of summer with them pads on, where he's trying to jam CeeDee Lamb at the line of scrimmage, and CeeDee is allowed to be physical and kind of put that shoulder on him and lean on him a little bit before he breaks his inside route or his outside route, or before he does that stutter go, before he does that comeback route. Same thing with George Pickens. Now we'll get to see how many pass breakups you're recording. A lot of people are like, man, they're not allowed to be physical, so his pass breakups are impressive. I actually think that's less impressive because physicality doesn't just apply to the defensive end. When you have a veteran receiver like CeeDee Lamb or a veteran receiver like George Pickens, that also applies to the offensive end as well. So just like in training camp, CeeDee Lamb will get to feel his physicality. CeeDee Lamb's a top 5 receiver in the league. He's felt everybody's physicality. What we want to see is if not George Pickens, sorry, if Kyer Elam feels CeeDee Lamb's physicality and is still able to fight through some of those different moves, some of those different contact, some of those different looks at the top of the route to make him throw him off and throw him off physically, throw him off mentally. If he's able to fight through that and still bat down passes, now you're going to catch my attention as we start to get into the monotony of camp where you have to be consistent every day to catch the coach's attention. It's very easy when you only have 3 days of practice this week, 3 days of practice that week, 3 days of practice this week. Now you're gone for a month and a half. No, we're going to get into the days where it's like, hey, we had hours of meetings this morning. Now we're having practice. And now the next day we're doing the same thing. Next day we're doing the same. Oh, this day the pads are coming on. So now we're hitting each other a little bit. We're getting a little more physical. You got beat up a little bit in that run game. And now CeeDee Lamb is running a stutter go on you. Now George Pickett is running a 9 route. Now CeeDee Lamb is running a dig over the cross. And they're hitting you with some of that shoulder lean. Let's figure out now if you're consistently batting down these passes once those types of things are happening. Now, if that starts happening, and I'm not saying he has to win every rep, right? Because a lot of times it becomes a little difficult when you get into those training camp days and you get into those training camp battles. If the offense is winning, a lot of people are online like, oh man, does that mean our defense sucks? And if the defense is winning, everybody online is like, oh man, does that mean our offense sucks? So, you have a fine balance there, right? Cornerback is just like any other position in the NFL. You're going to get beat, right? You're going to lose some, you're going to win some. It depends on how you bounce back. It depends on how you learn from how you lost, right? So if I lost on a specific route to CeeDee Lamb, whether it was a go, whether it was a stutter go, whether it was a post, whether it was a dig route, whether it was a slant, whether it was one of my favorite routes. Cole Beasley was a master at this, and on the goal line, it's one of those routes where you kind of run that slant inside for like 3 yards, and then you plant hard, and then you freaking gas it to the outside. Then the quarterback hits you on that outside move, and you get the touchdown, first down, whatever it is. It's one of my favorite routes. I don't remember exactly what the route is called, but just you might lose on some of these routes. Do you see that route and now do you start to learn, oh my God, next time CeeDee Lamb, or if they call a completely different receiver, Cavante Turpin runs that route, George Pickens runs that route, you start to get a beat on what they're doing and say, oh my God, I know this route. I saw it 3 routes ago. I know he's going to run that hard inside and then break to the outside, and I'm going to be there and bat the ball down. So that's what we're looking from a player like Kyer Elam. And we'll see once we get to training camp if that's something that he has his grasp around, and then we can kind of talk about, okay, maybe we might have something here as far as a cornerback that might be able to fill in until the reinforcements come back, whenever that is during the season. So speaking of that, Pickens, man, Pickens made plenty of plays this offseason, whether it was mini camp, whether it was OTA, any of those things. I'm still waiting to see him in training camp too. Excuse me, when the pads come on, but his track record is proven. The thing that has me most excited about George Pickens, and I hope we get to see it a little bit in the preseason, I don't want them to show us any specific plays, right? I don't want them to give away what their plans are in the playbook, but some of the things I want to see is George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb on the field at the same time, and how defenses react. We might not get to see that until the regular season because they might not feel the need necessarily to play CeeDee Lamb at all in the preseason. But I would like to see what happens when you have, your normal set. You come out to start the game. You got Ferguson out there. Maybe you're doing 12 personnel. You got your tight end Ferguson. You got Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, and Kevontae Turpin. And then you got Dak Prescott out there, and in the backfield you have choose your running back roulette. I would like to see if defenses are deciding, hey, we're going to deploy 3 linebackers out here, or the defenses are still like, these Cowboys, they haven't been able to run the ball, whether it was a light box or a heavy box for the last couple of years. And the numbers back that up, right? The Cowboys have not been effective no matter what type of box you see. If you see a heavy box, Cowboys have not been effective. If you see a light box, Cowboys have not been effective. Now, towards the end of last season, their efficiency started to improve when they started to give Rico Dowdle the ball more, but that's such a small sample size that if I'm a defense, I'm not respecting that at all. So it'll be interesting to see that when you deploy that, what happens? Do the Cowboys say, hey, it's a light box, we're going to take Booker, we're going to take BB, we're going to take Smith, and we're going to freaking open holes up that middle, Terrence Steele over there, Guyton, even if you're just a mirror guy, and we're going to make sure that we run you out of that cover 2. We're going to run you out of that 2 high shell and make you bring a safety down in the box to help stop the run. And then, boop, we'll hit you over the top with Pickens. Boop, we'll hit you over the top with CeeDee Lamb. Boom, we're hitting you in the seam with Jake Ferguson. Boom, we're hitting you in the seam with Luke Schoonmaker. Boom, we got Jaden Blue coming with wheel routes or Texas routes or flares out of the backfield, and just kind of, make sure defenses are constantly kept off balance. But the Cowboys have to prove it first. So it'll be interesting to see how Pickens opens that up, because if I'm the coordinator and I come out and they're going at 2 high shell because Pickens is there and saying, run the ball on me, I'm running it down your throat. I'm running it down your throat with all of them, with everybody, until you decide to. And if you never decide to come out of that, then hopefully that means the Cowboys are very effective at running the football. And hey, I did mention earlier that the Cowboys are not going to peak at the beginning of the season. So that plan could take a few weeks to come to fruition. But all of a sudden you start seeing the Cowboys week 4, week 5, week 6, kind of starting to get that game plan going. And God forbid they figure out a way to win a few games along that way, because I did say they would lose to the Eagles, but then I had them winning a couple games. So let's say while they're gathering their footing and while they're figuring out the effectiveness of the run game, they're kind of, still figuring out ways to win, and then boom, they figure out that run game and they figure out exactly how to make defenses honor it. And now you have the play action pass going. Like, I'm really excited with this George Pickens edition because I feel like it is the perfect addition for the team. Tyler Guyton, want to hit on him. He looks great. He looks built. He looks like a different person. And then hearing him in his interviews got me kind of excited as well, because he wasn't really being the excuse maker. He was more so taking accountability and taking ownership. Now, this is the off season. Everybody can talk great, right? We've run into, as Cowboys fans, we've gotten, it feels like, almost every different iteration of this team, right? We've got the team that sucks. We've got the team that came out of nowhere and was good out of nowhere. We got the team that was good and underperformed. We got the team that was mediocre. So it feels like we've gotten every iteration of this Cowboys team. So honestly, the talking doesn't give me like A+ level of excitement, but what it does give me is at least the player is aware. And being self-aware, the only way you can correct who you are is by being aware of your flaws, right? If you're one of those people who, you want to be the best version of yourself, right? And it doesn't, I'm not just talking about in football terms, I'm like in any term, in any general way in life, right? You want to be the best accountant. You want to be the best teacher. You want to be the best bus driver. Whatever you do, you have to recognize what you're not good at, because the only way you can get better at what you're not good at is by acknowledging that you're not good at, right? You're not good at it. So then you can start to correct those things that you're not good at, so you can start to mitigate your flaws and accentuate your strengths. So hearing Tyler Guyton talk the way he's talked, that's what it's given me. You've at least acknowledged what you're not good at. And hopefully that means you're on the path to mitigating your flaws and accentuating your strengths. So I am very excited to see what happens with Tyler Guyton in training camp. Now maybe we get to training camp and maybe it's the same old same, and then we got to go to the drawing board and say, hey, this is a competition with Awesome Richards now. Now you have to compete with Awesome for your spot. I think Awesome Richards played very well last year, so if Guyton for some reason has to end up competing with him, I think that'll only bring the best out of both of them. But hopefully we're on the path at least to success, just with the recognition that you weren't good enough. It takes a lot to be a person that's honest with yourself. We talked about the way you are with yourself. If you're honest with self, that's awesome. But if you lie to yourself, that's detrimental. It's the worst type of lies, the lies we tell ourselves. So at least it looks like Tyler Guyton isn't lying to himself, and it looks like Tyler Guyton is at least recognizing that he wasn't good enough, and hopefully that puts him on the path to success. And then lastly, Brian Schottenheimer had rather like one of the longest press conferences I've ever seen for the end of minicamp. It was like 35 minutes long. He was going into detail about a lot of different things, and the thing that's kind of endeared Schottenheimer to the fan base and to the beat writers and to the radio personalities and pretty much anybody else that you talk to is he does seem very genuine. He does seem very honest. When you ask him a question, you don't get coach speak. You kind of get a real answer. And that's refreshing, especially around these parts, because Jason Garrett was really more so about, get better each and every day, be the best version of yourself. It's about us. It's not about the opponent. It's a nameless, faceless opponent. We should be able to play at home, on the road, on the moon, although in the park a lot. He said all those different things. Mike McCarthy gave you the ultimate coach speak. You basically got a whole lot of nothing. His favorite phrase was "at the end of the day," because I heard him say it about 45,000 times in his 5 years here. So hearing Schottenheimer talk and kind of hearing the way he talks to the media, it comes across as you're not getting coach speak, and you're probably getting a very similar way to the way he talks to his players. Maybe not with as much enthusiasm and excitement, because I had the mic'd up version of him that I watched on the Dallas Cowboys website, and when he was going around to his individual players, he was being very enthusiastic, very out there and kind of talking to his guys and motivating them and being very energetic. But when he talks to the media, when he talks to the beat, he does at least have a semblance of, hey, this is not a canned answer. If you ask me a question, I'm going to think about it thoroughly, and I'm going to give you an answer based on, some sort of deep thought. And I hope that sort of deep thought is being put into the playbook, is being put into the game plan, is being put into the time management, because there are a lot of different aspects of coaching that when you have a first-year head coach, even though he's been in the NFL for 30 plus years and he's seen it all, and his dad was an amazing coach in the NFL, he's still going to have things that he's going to learn week to week, things that he didn't see, things that he didn't notice, things that he didn't plan for. And adjustments are something that the Cowboys have had a big issue with over these last gazillion years. And so it'll be nice to see what Schottenheimer does in those different situations. And this year is his first year as a head coach, right? So I can't necessarily judge him to the point where it's like, if he doesn't do everything right in 2025, it's over. I can't do that. I can't because there has to be a plan. There has to be a foundation. There has to be some sort of building in order to get where you have to go, right? You don't chop a tree in 5 seconds, right? You have to keep hitting the tree, making a little dent, getting that axe there, getting that axe, going at it, until you get to timber. So, hopefully this year is when we get to timber, because timber for me means we hit the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So it's timber. We chopping that axe and building that tree. But most likely it's going to take a little while, right? Usually first year head coaches kind of overhaul the roster and kind of try to get it to the point where, okay, this is our team philosophy. This is what we're about. These are the type of players that we want. And then the second year, you kind of overhaul a little bit more of that roster. And then usually by the third year with a coach, and I know y'all don't want to hear that, but by the third year with a coach is usually when you have the roster the coach wants, the culture the coach wants, the nuance the coach wants, because everybody's kind of been in the same system now. And that's when you usually get the best or worst version of that team, right? That's when you hit that make or break. That's when you're doing that. You either doing that Doug Peterson, or you doing that Jason Garrett. Like, I had the team 2011, 2012, 2013. Man, we sucked. But now 2014, Dez caught it. So it takes a little bit of time, and if he doesn't necessarily have as much success as we all want him to have in his first year, I just hope the fan base doesn't turn on him, because it's a process, but we do live in a microwave society. So it's going to be interesting not only how that process goes, but then how he responds and how his team responds to that process. Because Jerry Jones isn't firing that man after 1 year. Jerry Jones isn't firing that man after 2 years. So let's see how this goes if everything isn't perfect within 6 to 8 weeks, because that's the type of society we live in. Is everybody going to turn on them? And if they do, how's the team respond? How does the owner respond? How does the coach respond? And we'll see what the Cowboys are made of based on that. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me at knockersonthebottomoutlook.com. Again, that's knockersonthebottomoutlook.com. Or you can hit me at knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JMillerIYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can leave comments below if there's anything specific that you want me to cover. I'll take questions there. I'll take them here via email, via Twitter, rolling into a mailbag. Actually, our next episode, I was about to say my normal spiel, but our next episode will be a mailbag segment. So we're just going to take questions the whole time, whether the questions are in the comments, whether they're via email, whether they're via Twitter. I'm going to roll them into a mailbag, make it a formal segment. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm your host, J Mill if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.